All right, so you sent over a whole mountain of stuff on Jaguar articles and social media is blowing up, and you even included some financial reports.
Yeah.
Clearly, you're fascinated by their latest marketing campaign.
Yeah.
And honestly, it is a bit of a wild ride. So are you ready to take a deep dive into what's happening with this iconic British brand and see if we can figure out where they're headed?
Absolutely. It's fascinating how a brand that's so well known for its heritage is suddenly going in such a radical direction.
Exactly.
Huh?
Like it all started on November 19th, 2024. Jaguar drops this really cryptic ad campaign
Right.
on X, Instagram, YouTube, everywhere you look.
Yeah.
And it wasn't your typical sleek car speeding down a winding road kind of ad.
Not at all. Instead, they hit us with all this high fashion imagery and slogans like delete ordinary and live vividly.
Oh, yeah.
And the cars themselves,
Yeah.
they were practically non-existent.
It was like watching a fashion show, not a car commercial.
Right.
And the internet just went crazy, like tens of thousands of comments.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone from the BBC to Forbes was talking about it.
Yeah.
Even Elon Musk chimed in. You practically couldn't avoid it.
It seems like all that attention, good or bad, might have been exactly what Jaguar was aiming for.
Yeah, that's what some of the experts are saying.
Yeah.
But a lot of the reaction wasn't exactly positive.
Right.
There were a lot of people saying that Jaguar's going woke. You know, like they're abandoning their traditional image to chase a different demographic.
And that reaction, especially how strong it was, speaks volumes about the emotional connection that people have with heritage brands like Jaguar. I think for a lot of people, this campaign felt like a betrayal.
Oh, totally. Some of those social media comments were brutal.
Oh, yeah.
People were predicting boycotts, the end of Jaguar. You could practically feel the passion and the anger from these longtime Jaguar fans.
It really makes you wonder, was this calculated? Did they know that they were going to get this kind of reaction?
Well, Jaguar's spokesperson, Joseph Staubel, he told Forbes that this was a deliberate move to reposition Jaguar as a luxury electric brand. And then you got Roden Glover, who's their head of social media, and he basically said in the Financial Times that they had to do something drastic.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
yeah, and that's where I think the numbers become really important. To understand this gamble, we need to look at the bigger picture of the challenges that Jaguar's facing.
Right.
Like their traditional models just haven't been profitable for years, and this rebranding could be a matter of survival for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if you look at their sales figures, they've been pretty dismal. In 2023, Jaguar only sold 64,000 cars globally.
Wow.
And if you compare that to the 431,000 cars sold by Jaguar Land Rover as a whole, you can see why they might be feeling the pressure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
That takes us to the roller coaster ride of Jaguar Land Rover's finances since Tata Motors bought them back in 2008.
Right.
Early on, things were great. They tripled their sales under CEO Ralph Spieth,
wow.
and they hit a peak of about 600,000 cars annually in 2017, but then...
Yeah, then 2018 happened. It was like everything that could go wrong.
Yeah.
The Chinese market, which had been huge for them, just slumped.
Right.
Their reliance on diesel engines suddenly looked really outdated.
Yeah.
Brexit created just chaos and uncertainty. And then on top of all of that, Trump slapped tariffs on everything.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of how even a really well-established company can be knocked off course by things that are totally outside of their control.
Right.
And it forced Jaguar Land Rover to completely shift gears and focus on their more profitable Land Rover brand.
Yeah, especially the high-end Range Rover.
Exactly.
And that actually worked.
It did.
They managed to turn things around.
Yeah.
They reported nearly $2.8 billion in profits for 2024.
Wow.
That's double what they made in 2022.
Yeah.
It shows that they can adapt,
Yeah.
but the question is, can they do it again with Jaguar?
That is the big question.
Right.
Because this electric push isn't just some marketing ploy.
Right.
It's a core part of a massive $19 billion strategy that they announced back in 2021.
Wow.
They're betting big on electric, with the first all-electric Jaguars expected to hit the market in 2026.
And to show their serious mission, they're investing heavily in production.
Yeah.
Their factory in Hillwood in the UK is getting a $320 million upgrade,
Wow.
specifically for building these new electric vehicles.
Yeah.
So this isn't just like tinkering around the edges, it's a complete transformation.
It really makes you wonder what all the marketing experts are making of all of this.
Yeah.
Is this campaign sheer genius, or are they shooting themselves in the foot?
Well, opinions are definitely mixed.
Yeah.
James Morris, who's an automotive specialist for Forbes, thinks that this is a brilliant move to generate buzz and attract a whole new customer base. After all, those loyal Jaguar fans weren't exactly filling their pockets.
Well, I see his point. I can't help but wonder if alienating your loyal customer base for an unproven market is really a stroke of genius. It's a risky move.
But isn't that what Jaguar needs right now?
Yeah.
A bold, risky move. They're essentially saying, we know our old ways weren't working, so we're shaking things up.
And to be fair, their sales figures speak for themselves. Something had to change.
Right.
But did it have to be this radical? That's the question.
Well, to understand that, maybe we need to look a little bit closer at the campaign itself. What were people actually seeing when they watched this ad? What kind of experience was it?
Imagine this. You're watching this rapid-fire montage of visuals, models strutting down a runway in these crazy avant-garde clothes, cityscapes flashing by abstract art mixed with nature scenes, all set to this really like pulsing electronic music. It was more like a high-fashion runway show than a car commercial.
It does sound pretty wild. And those slogans, delete ordinary and live vividly, they definitely had a very specific vibe. It was almost like they were targeting a younger, more tech-savvy audience.
Precisely. And that's where some of the criticism came in. People felt that it was just too far removed from the classic image of Jaguar, the craftsmanship, the heritage, the British sophistication.
Right. It was like a complete 180 from the image of, a distinguished gentleman cruising through the English countryside in a classic Jaguar.
Exactly. And that disconnect, I think, is what fueled a lot of the backlash. People felt like the brand that they knew and loved was being replaced with something unfamiliar, something almost alien.
But remember what Jaguar spokesperson Joseph Staubel told Forbes. He stated very clearly that this relaunch was a bold, imaginative reinvention, and that they fully expected it to attract attention and become the focus of discussion.
So they knew exactly what they were doing. It sounds like they weren't afraid of a little controversy. They even welcomed it. They wanted people talking, and they got their wish.
So in a sense, they were playing with fire knowing they might get burned.
In a way, yes.
Right.
But remember, in today's world, even bad publicity can be good publicity.
That's true.
They needed to make a splash to break through all the noise, and they definitely achieved that. Remember those tens of thousands of comments we talked about?
It's true. Love it or hate it, that ad got people talking.
Yeah.
But it's also important to remember that this wasn't just some random publicity stunt.
Right.
It was tied to a much bigger strategic shift within the company. They're putting billions of dollars behind their electric vehicle program, and this campaign was meant to kind of prepare the ground for that transition.
That's a good point. This wasn't just about selling cars. It was about selling a vision, a new direction for the Jaguar brand. They're trying to redefine luxury in the electric age.
And they're doing it on a really tight timeline.
Right.
Their first all-electric models are supposed to be on the market by 2026, which isn't that far off. It seems like they're really in a race against time.
They are indeed. And given all the challenges that they faced, it makes you wonder, what were the specific factors that led to those financial troubles back in 2018? We touched on some of the external forces, but was there something more at play?
Well, one key factor was their heavy reliance on diesel engines at a time when the market was really shifting towards petrol and, crucially, electric vehicles. They were just really slow to adapt to those changing preferences, and it cost them dearly.
So they were essentially caught off guard by the speed of the market's shift.
Exactly. They underestimated how quickly the world was moving away from diesel.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you had all those external factors we talked about, the Chinese market slowdown, Brexit trumps tariffs. It was a perfect storm.
It just goes to show that even giants can stumble when they don't adapt quickly enough. And that brings us back to their electric gamble. Could this be their attempt to turn a weakness into a strength?
It certainly seems that way. They're essentially saying, we may have been late to the party, but we're here now and we're going all in.
And that brings its own set of challenges, doesn't it?
Of course.
They're entering a really crowded market with established players like Tesla
and
a whole horde of startups all competing for attention.
Not to mention the other luxury brands like Audi, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz, who are all investing heavily in electric vehicles.
Right.
So Jaguar is going to be facing competition from all sides.
They will indeed. But they do have some advantages.
Like what?
They've got this really strong brand heritage, a reputation for design excellence, and a pretty loyal customer base, even if they need a little persuading to embrace electric.
And let's not forget, they're not starting from scratch. They've already released a few electric models like the I-Pace, which has gotten some pretty good reviews. So they're building on that experience, and they're leveraging their parent company's resources to develop a full range of electric vehicles.
So it's a multi-pronged approach. Appeal to a new generation of customers with this really bold marketing while reassuring their existing customer base that they're not completely abandoning their core values. It's a delicate balancing act.
It is. They need to attract those new buyers without alienating the old guard.
Right.
And with this campaign, they've definitely shaken things up. But is it enough?
That remains to be seen. This is a long game, and we'll have to see how their upcoming electric models are received, how they perform in the market, and whether they can really carve out a space for themselves in this new era of automobiles.
Well, to get a better sense of that, maybe we should dive into details of their electric strategy.
Right.
We've mentioned that $19 billion investment.
Okay.
But where exactly is that money going? What are their specific plans for the future?
That's a great question, and it leads us to a particularly fascinating part of their strategy, what they call reimagining Jaguar.
Ooh, now that sounds intriguing. Let's unpack that in part 2 of our deep dive.
So this reimagining, it goes beyond just electrifying their existing models.
Okay.
They're creating entirely new vehicles from scratch,
Wow.
designed specifically for an electric future. It's a bold move, even more so than that ad campaign.
So they're not just like swapping out a gas engine for an electric motor.
Right.
They're completely rethinking like what a Jaguar can be in the electric age.
Exactly. It's like a total overhaul of their design philosophy. They're embracing these new technologies and manufacturing processes that are unique to electric vehicles. And this is where that $19 billion investment comes in.
Yeah, we touched on the $320 million upgrade for their Hillwood factory.
Right.
But it sounds like this reimagining goes way beyond just like retooling factories.
Absolutely. A big chunk of that investment is going towards research and development, particularly in areas like battery technology,
Okay.
autonomous driving, and connected car features. So they're not just playing catch-up. They're aiming to be at the forefront of innovation in the electric vehicle space.
So while some heritage brands might be content to just electrify their existing models,
Yeah.
Jaguar is swinging for the fences.
Yeah, they are.
They're aiming to be a leader in this new electric world.
Precisely. They're trying to carve out a niche for themselves as like this luxury electric brand.
Okay.
That's not just stylish and high-performing, but also technologically advanced and forward-thinking. Think like Tesla, but with a Jaguar twist.
Yeah, it's a high-stakes gamble for sure.
It is.
But it also speaks to a certain level of ambition, right?
Okay, sure.
They're not just trying to survive, they're aiming to thrive in this new landscape.
Ambition is exactly what they need right now. They need to shake off that perception of being like a fading brand, you know, a relic of the past. And they want to reclaim their position as a leader in the automotive world.
But can they pull it off? I mean, the automotive landscape is so competitive.
It is.
And the electric vehicle market is still in its early stages. There were just so many unknowns, so many factors that could completely derail their plans.
It's true. Like consumer preferences are constantly evolving.
Yeah.
Technology is advancing at like a breakneck pace.
Right.
Government regulations are a wild card. And then you have the global economic climate, which can shift like the tides. Any one of these factors could have a huge impact on Jaguar's success.
So even with all the ambition and investment in the world, they're still facing an uphill battle.
Absolutely. But let's not forget, they've faced tough odds before.
Right.
And they've come out on top. Remember that financial turnaround in 2024?
Yeah, they doubled their profits in just 2 years.
Exactly. They've proven that they can adapt, they can innovate, and they can surprise us.
And honestly, this whole saga is a lot more interesting than watching a company play it safe.
Oh, absolutely.
Like they're taking risks, they're pushing boundaries, and that makes for a really compelling story.
It's like a high wire act, and we're all watching to see if they make it to the other side. But regardless of what happens, their journey is going to be a really fascinating case study in brand evolution and strategic adaptation and this like relentless pursuit of innovation in a world that's changing so rapidly.
Yeah, it's also a reminder that even when you're facing disruption and uncertainty,
Yeah.
there's always an opportunity for reinvention.
Right.
You know, like pushing boundaries and redefining what's possible. And that's a lesson that applies way beyond the automotive industry.
Absolutely. It's a lesson for any company or any individual who's facing a changing landscape. But getting back to Jaguar, one question kind of lingers for me.
Okay, what's that?
Does this bold move make their upcoming electric vehicles more or less appealing to you?
That's a great question. And it's one we should all be asking ourselves. Does this reimagining, this whole embrace of the electric future,
Yeah.
does it enhance or diminish the allure of the Jaguar brand?
Perhaps it just depends on what you, the listener, value in a car, in a brand, and in the experience of driving itself.
Yeah, it's a question that touches on something much deeper than just horsepower and technology.
Right.
It speaks to like our emotions, our aspirations, and the stories that we tell ourselves about the brands that we choose to align with.
And those stories are constantly evolving, just like the brands themselves. We're at this fascinating inflection point in the automotive world, and Jaguar is right at the center of it. They're making these bold moves and challenging conventional wisdom It's a gamble for sure, but it's a gamble that just might pay off.
Only time will tell. But in the meantime, I think we should just keep our eyes on Jaguar.
Yeah.
Keep exploring these complex issues and keep asking the tough questions.
And that, I believe, is what this deep dive is all about. Indeed. It's about diving deep into all the complexities of the world around us, uncovering those hidden stories, and making sense of all the forces that are shaping our lives.
So buckle up, listeners, because this ride is far from over. We've got more ground to cover, more insights to uncover, and more questions to explore.
And as always, we encourage you to engage with us, to share your thoughts, your questions, and your own perspectives. Because ultimately, this is a conversation, a shared exploration of a really fascinating topic with implications that reach far beyond the world of cars.
It's really amazing how just one marketing campaign can spark this huge conversation about the future of a brand and really the future of driving itself.
Yeah, it's the power of a really well-executed strategy, even if it is controversial. It forces us to confront our assumptions and consider some new possibilities.
And in Jaguar's case, those possibilities are tied to some very specific dates and numbers, like they've set a target of 2026 for launching their first fully electric models.
Yeah.
That's not really a lot of time to completely revamp their whole lineup and convince customers that they're really serious about this electric future.
Yeah, it's a really tight timeline, especially when you think about how complicated it is to develop and manufacture electric vehicles at scale.
Right.
Like, they're essentially rebuilding their entire operation from scratch.
And they're doing it in a market that's already so competitive.
Yeah.
We talked about Tesla and some of the other established players.
Right.
But what about all the new startups that are popping up all over the place? It seems like everyone's trying to get a piece of the electric vehicle pie these days.
Yeah, it's like a total gold rush, and the stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah.
But for a brand like Jaguar, with all their heritage and reputation, I think they have a real opportunity to stand out. You know, they're not just another tech startup.
Right.
They're an established player with this long history of innovation and design excellence.
And that's where those specific numbers that we keep coming back to, they become so important. Those investment figures, like the $19 billion for their electric strategy, the $320 million for that Hillwood factory upgrade, those numbers really signal a level of commitment that's hard to ignore.
It's a clear indication that they're not just kind of dipping their toes in the water.
Right.
They are diving in headfirst into the electric future.
Yeah.
And those investments are actually translating into concrete actions. Yeah. They're not just talking about these new technologies, they're developing them, they're testing them, and they're preparing to actually bring them to market.
And it's all happening on a surprisingly fast timeline.
Yeah.
Like, their first all-electric models are supposed to be here in just 2 years.
I know.
So while the marketing campaign was like the initial shock to the system, I think the real test is going to be how those cars actually perform, how they're received by critics and consumers.
Yeah, ultimately it's the cars themselves that are going to determine whether or not this gamble pays off. But the fact that they're willing to take such a bold risk to completely reimagine what a Jaguar can be in the electric age.
Yeah.
That really speaks volumes about their vision and their determination.
And it really does make for a fascinating story.
Yeah.
One that we'll definitely be following closely in the months and years to come.
For sure.
Will they be able to reclaim that position as a leader in the automotive world? Will they become a symbol of innovation and luxury in the electric age?
Only time will tell. Yeah. But for now, I think we can just appreciate the audacity of their vision, the scale of their ambition, and that sheer excitement of watching a legacy brand reinvent itself for a whole new era.
It's been a really insightful deep dive.
Yes.
We've covered so much.
Yeah.
We've explored all the complexities of Jaguar's electric gamble and hopefully sparked some thought-provoking questions for our listeners.
Absolutely. And we encourage you to keep exploring this topic and stay informed about all the latest developments in the electric vehicle market, and to just never stop questioning, learning, and engaging with the world around you.
And until next time, keep those wheels turning.